Claude is being talked about absolutely everywhere. The parent company Anthropic is being mentioned in the media pretty much every single day. But I totally understand that it's quite overwhelming for somebody watching all of that, and especially somebody that may have just entered the world of AI and trying to understand the very, very basics. So today, we're going to go back to the basics. I'm going to show you the basics of Claude. We're going to jump in and give an idea of how to get started with it and just know where everything is at this current point in time. The reason being is because you're probably wanting to get started with AI, but you're trying to find a simple and easy way to do that that isn't overwhelming. So today I'm going to explain things like a bit like a human and give you everything you need to advance with Claude today. This is a beginner setup, so let's dive in. So first off, today's video is sponsored by Setup. If you're interested in checking them out, you'll find a link in the description. More about them later on. So as you can see here on screen, this is the area where you prompt Claude. This is basically allowing you to interact with it. It's a bit of a window into it. So you can type whatever you want there, whatever your use case is, but I want to show you a few of the elements that might enhance that. So down here, you can see the plus button. There's a few different options here. So we're going to go and obviously see, the screenshot, the files, the photos. These are things that are going to add context every time you share something with Claude. So if, for example, if you take a photo of your garden and you want some recommendations about how it can be improved, then that's where you would upload a file or a screenshot, etc., etc. So there are a few different options here. You can see add to project. Now, add to project is basically like organizing all of your chats into the right window. So like a notebook for each of your project. And what's the benefit as well with this project/notebook is you can add more information about what the project is about inside of the projects area. So if I go up here, you can see that I've got an area for chats, which is basically where I'm on really. And then I go to projects, and you can see here that I've added a bit of context into each of these. So let's just press new project here. Now, as you can see you can add what you're working on and try to describe your goals of that. Now, why is that particularly important? Well, it gives you a way to allocate a type of chat to something much bigger, something much broader. And as you add items to it, it's going to pull from the project context. And that's just helpful for improving the quality of the chat. So if you've got a load of numbers there, like I want to achieve, a weight goal, for example, and you constantly don't want to have to create a new chat and copy stuff in all the time, then this can be a nice way to save you a bit of time, but also progressively work towards a goal, if that makes sense. So projects are a great way to do that. So again, and you can always go up here to new chat if you want to create a new one. So up here, you can also add to Google Drive. I've got Google Drive connected. I can search the folders. It only works on documents and files which are like slides or spreadsheets and things like that. But it means you can connect them up and it'll bring in the context of those. Very helpful, especially if you're just trying to add detail. And then there's skills. We'll come to skills later on. It's a bit more advanced. And then we've got connectors as well, which I'll talk about later too. But there are some things down here. This is a really useful one. If you want to just understand the style of how you want Claude to communicate back with you, then you can create and edit your own styles. For example, if you only want it to respond in bullet points every single time, I love that personally, then you can create your own style, which is quite a nice one. But if you want to, you can change it each time. So if your chat is about, okay, I want to learn about the history of something specific, you can press learning and you can see that has been selected. You can also choose whether or not to have web search or research. Now, research is limited to some plans and web search is available for everyone, but it's important to note, if your prompt doesn't require necessarily, like sourcing from the web for that job, like if it's a basic one, like where all the information is local, you've uploaded a file and it's all information that's all bundled up into the prompt, like a sum or a calculation or data that's you've already prompted it with, then a web search probably isn't valuable. And the reason why you may want to start shuffling these settings around each time you do it is because very simply web search takes up time in the on the costs of how much tokens you use each time you use Claude. So again, you might want to turn that one off so that it doesn't make it so aggressive. Now over here, it's very simple. There's a couple of different AI models you can go with. Now, you're probably best to look at the AI models because these change every single week, really. But there are sort of three main models, I would say. There's one that's like the most advanced model that uses a lot of tokens, and there's a basic one which is good for quick answers. And there's a sort of middle ground one which is good for everyday activities. Now, it's important just to see, again, what type of task you're doing. Like if it's very creative, intense, or workflow driven, like there's multiple steps to it, then something like Opus would work well. Whereas if it's something very, very basic and you want, you're almost like following, you're making it super clear in the prompt, you're giving it all that it needs, and it doesn't need to do much work, but obviously it does need to do work. Then there's ones called Haiku, which is quite good for quick answers. Now there's also this feature recently called adaptive thinking. This is for more complex tasks, but I believe that's available through the Max plan, which I'm on. And you can even go back to older models as well if you want to consume less tokens collectively. And over here on web, there's the voice mode, which allows you to converse. Now, one final thing people forget is if you do want to make a sort of invisible chat for temporarily, you can go up to incognito up at the top and start typing away. Now, incognitos aren't saved, so they won't pop up in your windows, but they do have the memory to basically, they don't store memory when you start typing, but they use the context that you already have. So if I would say, like, what's my name? Then whilst it's an incognito chat, it will know that a little bit about me. Before we move on to this section, here's a little bit more about setup.
Quick question, how many individual subscriptions are you paying for right now on your Mac device? Because there is actually a smarter way. Setup is a marketplace with hundreds of hand-picked Mac apps. You can buy just the ones you need, or you can get a membership with access to all of them. Clean My Mac keeps your system fast, Bartender declutters your menu bar, Al Dente Pro protects your battery, and there's total budget control. You can pick what works for your workflow without overpaying for apps you don't use. Setup is offering an extended 30-day trial. Links right in the top of the description. Check it out there.
So we've covered some of the basics there. We've covered chat and projects. Let's look a little bit about the sort of settings area and other elements of light. I think artifacts is a good next step. So artifacts are anything that you create inside of Claude. So for example, if you're creating something that Claude has created, like a document or a PNG file, whatever it is, anything that is saved, you can save into your artifacts area, sort of like a library of information for later. Now let's go over to the settings area. So this right here is really helpful. So I can add it and give it my full name, what should Claude call me, but you can also add in what type of job work you do. I put other because I'm a very specific use case, but I always say in my personal preferences, reply things in bullet points and with emoji bullets. I like that. And I gave it a bit of context about my current situation, so it improves the answers. Now down here, if you want to, you can use other such features like notifications. You can change the color of it. You can have it in dark mode all the time. And you can even have background animation enabled as well. And you can also see a change in font. Now there is a font which is dyslexic friendly, which can help you, and you can also change the voice modes down here. Now other things I want to show you is this area called usage. So obviously I've got the Max plan here, but there will be resets to this. So you can go and check in on how aggressively you're using this and get an understanding of when it resets. There is a specific plan on Sonnet, which is the medium ground plan, and it will give you an idea of how much time you're using it for daily runs and things like that. So moving on to capabilities, you can affect how your memory comes up in the chat. So for example, there's like a long document that you can browse that has all of your memory all here, and you can manage what edits it tries to bring in. So I try and go in there probably every like 2 months to try and update the information in there, primarily because the better the information, the better the answers are going to be for me, and investing that time into it. Now, finally, the connectors. The connectors are great because they're a good starting point if you want to connect something called an MCP. Don't worry, that's an overwhelming word, but it just basically means a bridge between one app and another. Then you can do that from here. That probably requires another video, but you can connect ones that are out of the box. And what I mean by that is if you've got Google Calendar or Monday.com or Linear, then you can just go ahead and basically join your account and connect them up quite easily. It's not too stressful, which is good news. Okay, so moving on to skills. I don't want to go into too much detail on this because this can be quite overwhelming for somebody that's just getting started. And I totally appreciate we're doing that in this video. But you can create something called a skill. And a skill you can create with Claude, or you can upload one that somebody sent you, or you can write your own skill instructions. But these are really basic because they're basically like multi-prompt actions. So for example, let me show you one I've created here. So this one here is for whenever I give a YouTube video transcription, it's going to do the timestamps, tags, and description for me all in one. The reason why this is helpful is because then I can just press, if I go over to here and I press / and I go over to YouTube prep video, that's going to save me a lot of time because then I can just add in the transcript, the long transcript, and it's going to do all that work in the background for me. Then I can come back to the video and I can do that. Now in that case, I might want to change something like to Sonnet 4.6 because it's not a vastly intense task. It's quite a routine run, but at the same time, I'm not overloading the Opus plan if I'm using that one right now. Okay, so I think we've covered quite a lot of how you use Claude, and I think that's important for those who are just getting started. But I also think it's important to address the privacy elements. So as you can see here, there's an area where you can export all your data. You can see your shared chats. Shared chats are basically just ways to invite other people to chat, which allows you to prompt at the same time. And finally, you can manage your memory preferences as well. Now here you can allow Claude to improve, get the metadata from your location, which helps to improve. You can turn that off if you wish so. And you can also turn this off as well, which allows you to use your chat and coding sessions to train the model. Obviously that's dependent on the plan that you're on, but if you do have ability to turn it off, that's something that you might want to do, so do check it out. So Claude is a powerful system and an AI chatbot that's going to help you do quite a lot, and understanding some of those basics before you jump in headfirst will help you dramatically over time. Prompting is also very important, so make sure you spend a bit more time on giving as much information to the AI chatbot as possible so it can produce the best quality result. It's sort of like having a quick conversation with somebody and expecting really perfect results if you don't spend a little bit more time giving them details and things that is going to help them in the future. But not only with this, it's also setting up those automations, like those skills, those things that you do routinely, where the context can be reused every single time. So I really hope that was a good overview for you in understanding what Claude is and giving you the basics so that you don't feel a bit more overwhelmed. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Love to have you. And if you're interested in checking out more videos, you can over on the channel. Thanks to Setup for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you in a future video. Cheerio for now.